This conference will now be recorded.
And the recording, FYI, is just something for people who could not make the meeting, but still want to know what's going on. It's not like 1,000 people are going to watch it or anything, so it's okay. But if you don't want to be in the video for it, if you turn off your webcam, then you're not a part of the recording. So it's totally up to you. Hello, Lori. Is your voice better now? Last time you couldn't talk.
Oh yeah, it's all good now. Yeah. Hope
Okay.
everybody's doing well.
Appreciate you joining and hanging with us. So, Lori, I just said a minute ago, I'm not sure if you heard or not, our featured guest tonight just had a transformer blow in his neighborhood and the power is out all over the place. So we may not have our featured guest for February, but he's going to try to still join.
And you might scare off a feature guest for next month as well if they hear about that.
Yeah. Well, he may end up being next month's guest if he can't join tonight, because that would be strike three. Because he joined us back in October. That was when we went to Mia's and Pia's, and the signal kept crapping out, and unknowingly I kept talking over him the entire time that he was trying to answer questions. It's kind of ruined the whole meeting unintentionally. So this was going to be the makeup night for the fact that our October meeting got screwed up. So if some more people join, that's great, but might as well get things started off and rolling. It looks like everyone who is here has been with us at least for one previous meeting, which is fantastic. Love seeing people coming back. I'm Kurt Lidke. I'm the executive director of Klamath Film. I've been in that role for a little over a year now. We are an organization that started in 2012. We are a nonprofit. It started as just a collective of local filmmakers who wanted to share and collaborate on projects, and it has grown exponentially from there. We do all sorts of events. We we are the hosts of the annual Klamath Independent Film Festival, which this year will be the 9th year of the film festival. We do events throughout the year when we can. Obviously, it's a little bit trickier right now because of COVID, but we are figuring out ways to still be able to do events, such as moving our meetings virtually when normally we would be meeting at a local restaurant. And we may continue to try to do that again in the future, but we will still present this online option so that people can be a part of it. But our membership includes filmmakers. We have several actors who are actually in our call now, um, down to students and people who just love movies and want to be a part of film culture. And we welcome everyone to be involved in that. We have some very exciting things planned for 2021 and some things coming up soon. But before I delve into our calendar of events, we also have some business that we need to take care of tonight. We always start this thing off with introductions. So as I said, I'm Kurt Lidke, and I am a filmmaker myself. Um, I worked in Hollywood for about 12 years before I moved to Southern Oregon. My day job is as a newspaper journalist, but I do all the multimedia content for the newspaper. I'm also a commercial drone pilot. I have both an aerial drone and an underwater drone. So I can shoot 4K in the lakes around here, although our lakes being filled with algae, it doesn't do a ton of good. I see a big wall of green most of the time if I'm dropping into Lake Awana or Upper Klamath Lake. But but like Lake of the Woods area is awesome, but Upper Klamath is usually just a big wall of algae if I drop my drone in there. Um, and I do a lot of the promo videos that you see that come from Klamath Film. So I handle all of our social media and planning and do a little bit of everything for Klamath Film. So that's me. If people would just like to introduce themselves, Joyce, why don't we start off with you? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a fine art photographer, digital and acrylic artist here in Klamath Falls. Will be 2 years in Klamath Falls in June. Moved up from the East San Francisco Bay Area. And photography started out as being my main passion, and I've branched out a little bit. A year and a half ago, if someone asked me if I painted, I would have said, hell no. But I find that I really enjoy it, and I'm painting every day. It's very calming, and I find that anything to do with photography and art is just healing, very, very good for you, and that includes music. A few years ago, I was a guest speaker on a little podcast called the Healing Art of Arts, Healing Powers of Arts, I'm sorry. And the reason they invited me was I was recovering from a ruptured brain aneurysm.
Oh,
And it seemed like the only thing that helped me recover was being able to look at fine art, photography, paintings, and I found them on my TV in the hospital room where I could just push a button and these pictures would come up every 3 or 5 seconds. No advertisement, no nothing. And that was 24/7. And my doctor was surprised that I healed so fast. So here I am today and glad to be here and glad to be a part of this.
well, that's fantastic. Anytime that people can find creative outlets and also find healing through the arts, because when you think about it, art in its most basic form is just a reflection of human expression, right? Whether it's
Right.
sculpture or painting or photography or film or dance or whatever genre that you want to pick from, it's really a matter of human expression. And there's been so many studies that have been shown that have been done of people like people who suffer from Alzheimer's. They listen to a
Mhm.
certain song from their youth, all of a sudden it gets all the gears turning again, and they totally re-engage, whereas beforehand, they were just kind of void. So
Right.
there's lots of scientific benefits to the arts and finding a creative outlet in whatever people find. So that's fantastic that you've enjoyed painting and photography.
Yeah, thank you. It all relates back to love, I think, because the music, especially, it just makes you feel good, makes you feel happy, and that releases these endorphins in your brain that just they just spark something. And it's hard to explain if you haven't been there, but it works.
Yeah,
It's just an amazing thing. And so I really enjoy what I do.
Hey,
fantastic.
Joyce,
Yes,
do you do acrylic pours?
yes, I do. I love
I just
pouring.
I just got into that. I just did 2 acrylic pours last night. It's so fun. I know exactly where you're at right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun, it's time consuming, and you just never know what you're going to end up with.
I know you never know what you're gonna end up with.
Right.
Have either of you done any sort of watercolor work?
I've never done watercolor.
I was thinking of getting into alcohol pigments where like you will mix it with water and then you'll pour it on a canvas and let it dry and then you'll do another pour of it, but I have not done the water. It looks like watercolor, but it's alcohol ink.
I have the inks, but I haven't opened a bottle yet. That's next.
I bring that up because a little while ago I was watching an obscure film from the 70s that was made by a Japanese artist called Belladonna of Sadness. Has anyone heard of that, or anyone that know about it? It,
Haven't.
it's it's on a it's a more obscure film, but it's on a list of adult animation, and by adult animation I don't mean porn, but I mean films that are animated but not intended for kids. You think of like a lot of the Japanese anime or movies like Heavy Metal would be a good example of a film that is intended for adults, but it's animation. And this Japanese artist made an entire feature-length film almost entirely with watercolor paintings.
Wow.
And it follows a French couple in the 14th century that endures all sorts of hardships, and it's a little depressing as a story form, but it's a really fascinating film just from a technical standpoint of thinking how did they actually make that and the process behind it back in the 1970s to make a hour and a half long film almost entirely with watercolor paintings.
A lot of
So
work.
Wow.
yeah, a lot of work. That's because figure there's 24 frames every second, so that's
Right.
24 paintings for every 1 second of film. multiply that by an hour and a half.
Wow.
Um,
So
so
unbelievable.
it's a little hard to find, but if you're interested in something like that, the film is called Belladonna of Sadness,
I'll
and
look it up.
I recommend that. So, Wayne, one of our longest tenured members, why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Actor, producer, director, uh, yeah, director of photography, lighting, but my love is as an actor. If you include our stage performances, live performances, commercials, shorts, features, I've done 39 productions in the last 10 years, and I just absolutely love. That's me.
Well, I'll always appreciate you joining, Wayne. It's always good to see you, sir, and I appreciate your ongoing participation with Klamath Film. And we will most likely have more acting work for you in the relatively near future. And I will talk
Cool.
about that here soon. Grace, welcome back for a second time. I guess you enjoyed January if you decided to come back again. So thank you.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out where it is I gotta apply to get in. So I'm just like, hopefully, maybe this time. I'm kidding. No, so I'm pretty much a local. I'm from the East Coast, but I moved back from Southern California. Um, I have been seeking healthy outlets as I was young and dumb, and I want a new life for myself. So as you can see in my background, I got a lot of craftsy stuff. I'm always trying to keep my hands busy, but it also is kind of, I want to broaden the things that I know and do because I like to learn stuff, and I've always been interested in the film industry. But in the past, when I did have an opportunity, I really didn't because of me being young and dumb and with somebody I didn't want me to do it. So I'm just like, miss out on that opportunity. But then again, everything happens for a reason. So I'm hoping if I stick around and get a little idea of what you guys got going on, that maybe that opportunity will find me and I make myself available to it.
Fantastic. Well, always appreciate you participating, Grace. I will say we are in planning stages for a film camp that we're going to do this summer. And it'll be a one, possibly 2 week program that we're planning to do at the Ross Ragland as long as we can within COVID, restrictions and whatnot. We did a virtual camp last year online, and that was really popular. And so it will be essentially a crash course in filmmaking, from story ideas to script writing to pre-production, acting, filming, lighting, editing, music. So teaching from original concept to, by the end of the camp, you'll be making a film. And
Okay.
hopefully that will be an introduction for yourself as well as others who have always had an interest but never
Mhm.
really knew how to get started, or some of the ins and outs. Obviously, within 2 weeks' time, we can't teach you everything, but
Yeah.
it can at least get you rolling and better understanding concepts. You know, the beauty right now of film is that if you want to be a filmmaker, congratulations, you're a filmmaker. You don't need to have all the expensive equipment. You don't need to have big credentials. Wayne is a great example of this. Wayne just decided, he wanted to try out acting and found a niche and just worked it from there, and appears in full-on feature films as well as little YouTube videos on the side, just any opportunity that he gets, because he found what he liked. What's great is, when I got into film, it was still a time before uh, mobile technology and cheap cameras were readily available. The cameras that we were using when I was working on like music videos down in LA, these were $10,000 to $20,000 cameras typically. Now those same cameras, there's nothing wrong with those cameras, but they're selling them on eBay for $100 and no one wants them because they were using physical film as opposed to everything being digital now. And so these cameras that, major feature films were made on, you can pick up for $100 if you want to deal with actual film reels, but no one does. But what's great is that now cell phone technology has advanced so far, and some of our filmmakers on here can attest to this. What you have in your pocket right now is a better camera to get started and to be able to film feature films. People are actually making feature films with cell phones now. The difference between a professional Hollywood cinematographer and all of us with a cell phone in our pocket is no longer a matter of money. It is a matter of the knowledge of how to manipulate ISO, aperture, shutter speed, blur, with all of the little settings that are already built into your phone camera that 99% of people never touch, and they just leave their phone on auto. Now, there's nothing wrong with auto when you want to take a selfie or snap a photo of something. But if you want to make something that looks like a great film, it's not a matter of I can't afford a nice film camera. It's I need to know how to manipulate frames per second. I need to manipulate aperture and know how to set up lighting to get a really nice cinematic shot. You can do that with the phone that's in your pocket right now. You just need to have the knowledge of how to do that. And that's kind of the intent of our film camps. We'll give an opportunity to actually, handle some of the equipment and get a sense of where things go. But really, it's honestly, it's a matter of watching a couple of YouTube videos and learning how to balance ISO and aperture and f-stop and shutter speed to get really beautiful cinematic shots. And you can do that right now. Yeah, Wayne, you had something to say.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I only started acting about 10 years ago, but that was basically on a dare. I ended up auditioning for feature film, got the lead role, and just kind of went from there. And, if you want to do it, just do it. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Acting is just being.
And the same thing can be said about filmmaking. There's nothing, there's no law that says that any video you make has to be a linear, cohesive story. I mean, if you've ever watched a David Lynch film, or watched a David Lynch film 5 times and still don't understand what's going on, it's a matter of getting comfortable with the technology. I mean, everyone who has become a prominent filmmaker started by making just little crappy videos with a camcorder or making little films in their backyard just to experiment. I mean, the first videos that I made were awful, and I don't want anyone to see them. Nick Alexander, who's on the call here, he's a filmmaker as well. I'm sure he could say the same thing. When he first started using a camera, he's got some projects that are buried deep that in a vault that he doesn't want anyone to ever see. But that's okay. Steven Spielberg didn't become Steven Spielberg right out of the gate. He was making little videos with a Super 8 camera with his buddies in his backyard when he was in school. So it's just a matter of repetition. Think of it, like weightlifting. You can't just, pick up a dumbbell once and think that you're going to get buff, right? You got to get those reps in of just practicing stuff with your camera. And if you're intrigued by this, grab your cell phone, just shoot a couple of random things, and then start splicing them together. There's free programs that you can download for video editing software, and just dabble. I mean, honestly, there's some YouTube videos online, or just search for a tutorial of how to. If you have a Mac, start off with iMac. If you're on a PC, use Windows Movie Maker, because they're very stripped down, basic editing software programs. And just start dabbling with stuff. And then if you find an interest in it, be a part of our film camp, and we'll teach you a lot of the ins and outs. And if you're interested in some kind of mentorship or internship program, we have a number of filmmakers in our group who have done that in the past. In fact, I can tell you, last year, I was a mentor for a high school senior at Mazama who wanted to make her first film as her senior project. And so we spent months meeting every week to go over her idea of a script. I taught her how to draw storyboards and line up actors. And in fact, Wayne was going to act in her film. got everything lined up, ready to roll, and we were going to film it during spring break. Well, spring break, late March, that was when COVID hit, and basically all the schools got shut down, so she never got to make her film. The punchline of that is that the story that she had written, and this was, she wrote it in 2019, and then we refined the script, but the story she wrote was about a fast spreading virus at her school.
Go figure.
Yeah, exactly. So her film about a virus got shut down because of an actual virus.
Should have got #1 on our senior project.
So our advice is, if you're interested, just try it. And if it's terrible, so what? It will be terrible, because it takes those reps of learning how to do it. And I'm sure some of the other people on this call can absolutely verify that advice. In fact, Lindsay, Lindsay, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about the first video project you tried to put together?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lindsay. Let's see, my first video project. Oh, I was probably about 10, and I did a stop motion to where it was so lame, but my parents had one of those big video recorders that they would only break out for birthdays and for Christmas that had the full size tape that you put in. And so all I would do is I pointed it towards my bed and had all my stuffed animals on there, and then I would push record pause and then move them a little bit, record pause. And then I keep doing that until I had a story. And my story was that my stuffed animals would come alive and have a little party when I wasn't there, and I never knew that they were like partying and alive, and when I come back in the room, then they all kind of fall over and play dead again. So it was so lame. It was so lame.
People though.
How I got started, my first video projects were that, I grew up in Eugene. My dad for a time was a professor at the University of Oregon. My parents both went to the University of Oregon. My sister, it's in the blood, right? So growing up from a very young age, we always had season tickets to football games, basketball games. And so I would pop in a VHS tape, record the game, then go to the game, then come home and watch the broadcast of the game. And I never had the heart to record over any of these tapes. So eventually I had just this massive collection of Oregon Duck football and basketball games going back to the 1980s. And I started posting random highlights on YouTube. And just kind of for me more than anything else, so that I wouldn't have to pull out the VHS tapes. Like if I wanted to show a buddy, like, oh, check out this really nasty hit in this one game from like 2000. Okay, I'll just put it up on YouTube, and that way, I can just, send the link out if people want to see it. And I started getting responses from that. I thought maybe 5 people would look at the video, and 5,000 were looking at the video. And so I said, okay, maybe I'll put up some more clips and some more clips. And then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll try to combine some of these and make my own little like football highlight videos. And that was my introduction to just starting to dabble and edit and learn the ins and outs of basic editing. It's no longer cost prohibitive. If you have a computer and if you have a phone, you can make a movie right now. And it just comes down to finding something to film and then downloading the footage and then cutting it up like crazy and just seeing what comes out of it and using all of those creative skills to figure it out as you go. And if you get stuck, there's a YouTube tutorial that you can probably pull up and find. So I'm sorry, I cut you off though, Lindsay. You said it before some people joined on. So why don't you tell us about your background as well?
Oh, so originally I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I just had a calling to act. I've always acted ever since I was little in all the school plays and everything. So I decided to move out to Los Angeles and give it a real go. And I was out there for a little over a decade working as an actress in commercials and film. And then I fell into the stunt world and where I started doing stunt driving for a lot of the car commercials, Mazda, Nissan, Saturn, and I became the spokeswoman for Nissan as well as for Cadillac of Las Vegas. And then I met my husband, and he's military, and the military moved us over to Japan. And since we were out of the country and Japan didn't have a whole lot of opportunities for an American actress over there. And so I just kind of let it fall by the wayside. And year and a half, we moved to Klamath. And I did not think that there was going to be any sort of film entertainment industry here. And so I was so shocked when I read an article that Kurt wrote in the Herald and News a couple weeks ago. So I immediately, went to my first meeting a couple weeks ago, and the next day I applied to be on board of directors. I was like, I need film in my life again. And so here I am.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being a part of it.
Absolutely.
Lori, Grace, Lori is a great example here of someone who just decided to dabble with film at one point. She made a stop motion film last year that actually got into our film festival that she made primarily because she was bored and stuck at home because of COVID. So Lori, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about how you put together the puzzle?
Yeah, well, that pretty much sums it up. No, I'm Lori.
Hashtag spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm Lori. I joined Klamath Film a couple years ago, and I've done some backstage work and follow spot at the Ross Raglan Theater. I'm more behind the scenes. I've done a lot of volunteering with Klamath Film. I was on the board there for 2 years as the general member representative on the board. Yeah, I just really like art and creative endeavors, and so as well as watching films. But yeah, what Kurt was alluding to earlier or last year, I was sort of bored because of lockdown and stay at home, and so I'd been doing more puzzles because I like doing jigsaw puzzles, and so I decided to make a stop motion short film of one puzzle that I made that was all gold. And it was a really tough puzzle to make and stuff. And then, yeah, so it took a while to do all that to make it, but then to just do the puzzle. And then I actually took the pictures when I was taking a piece by piece away from the puzzle. And so I did about over 750 squats basically over a 3-day period because I was taking a piece away and then standing back up, taking a piece away, standing back up. And so definitely short, making a film can be a physical endeavor too, depending on your decision on how to make it. I would definitely not recommend doing that. But you learn through the process. So I definitely learned a lot through the process. And so that was really fun. And then I used some free audio recording software that I had and recorded me just sort of narrating my thoughts that I had when I was doing the puzzle. And then, so it's just sort of philosophical, or at least Kurt said it's philosophical, but just sort of my take on it. But yeah, and so I submitted it into KIF, and that was actually the first short film I made and submitted to KIF, and then it got into the film festival last fall, which was quite the honor and awesome to join the filmmakers who have gotten submissions into KIF, but also sort of a complete surprise because I mean I made it, but I wasn't sure if it was going to go in because I've also done I've been a judge for KIF, and so I've seen the quality of movies that make it in and have helped with the rating processes and stuff. But yeah, but I've also helped some people with their short films that they've made around Klamath Falls. I've reviewed some and gave like just comments, from somebody just watching, and they're like, okay, this transition doesn't work, but it's like when you're actually making it a film and editing it and you've seen it for X amount of hours and stuff, it's like you stop actually seeing it, so you need somebody else to look at it. So I would totally be willing to do that. Yeah, I think I rambled on enough there, but yeah.
Oh, that's great. Hopefully that helps, Grace. Yeah. What was interesting about the puzzle, and this is something that would be a good thing to reiterate now, since I think everyone on the call is a Klamath Film member, or almost everyone is. We have a large collection of professional filmmaking equipment that active Klamath Film members can check out for free, including a large collection of tripods, which I would have highly recommended to Lori to use as opposed to doing 1,000 squats of picking up puzzle pieces. Just put a tripod over the puzzle and everything would have been totally fine. But
You know, I appreciate tripods a lot more now. Don't take a tripod for granted, for sure.
we have tripods. We have what are called C stands, which are the really heavy, like industrial ones that you can put like mic booms on. We've got lights. We've got multiple cameras, GoPros, 4K cameras. We've got an editing computer that can be checked out for free. So if you want a computer that has editing software on it that you can dabble with, we have a large inventory, microphones. We've got all sorts of stuff that, as long as you're an active paying Klamath Film member, which is only $25 a year, you can check out all of as much gear as you want to experiment with. So Grace, if you're also thinking, man, my phone isn't going to cut it, well, if you're a $25 payment for a year, it means you get ticket discounts to all of our events, and you can check out some film equipment and just mess around with it and see what works for you as well. So, and a lot of that gear we'll be using for that film camp as well.
Okay.
Nick, are you on there, Nick? Nick,
Yes.
hello, sir. Hey there.
Yeah,
So Nick, why don't you introduce yourself?
absolutely. I'm acclimating to Klamath Falls weather. I was in Costa Rica for the last 2 weeks, so kind of a change of climate. But hi everyone, good evening. It's nice to see you all. Yeah, my name's Nick. I am actually just moved to Klamath Falls about 6 months ago, right before the Klamath Film Festival began, which was perfect timing because my movie screened there. And so it was my first feature film, a documentary film called Illegal. And so I'm here in Klamath Falls. My wife, she's studying at OIT, and so this is our home for the time being. And my general role for film projects has been a director, editor, director of photography, had many different roles in my documentary film. And right now, just working on kind of smaller short form projects here in Klamath Falls and around the state. And yeah, happy to collaborate and work together with you guys.
Nick, are you planning on submitting a film for this year's KIF?
I'm planning to. There's a few options. I'm just not sure yet what I want to submit. I mean, I have some projects that may or may not be finalized by the time of the submission date. So I do have a sequel to my first movie, Illegal. And so most likely I would submit that one. But I'll definitely be present at the film festival again next year. I'm excited, or this year, but yeah, the next film festival.
Right.
Kurt,
It still feels like 2020 at this point, right? It's like we're just kind of entering the 14th month of 2020 at this point. We had
Right.
March, and now we're into
2020.
June. Yeah, this I think is January is what you could call it this month. So that's fantastic. Nick, just so you know, filmmakers can submit 2 films for KIF. So if you have a short film and a feature film or whatever, last year we had one filmmaker who got 2 films in.
Sweet.
Taylor Morden had a short film, and he was also the maker of The Last Blockbuster, the documentary that we showed.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Sweet.
And then our last guest is Curtis, joined a little bit late. Hello, Curtis.
Hi, sorry I was late. I just got tied up doing things.
No worries. It's all good. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Curtis Peebles, and I am currently the chair of Klamath Film. I am also a music archivist, which means I get paid to collect music back at Texas Tech University. It's a music archive I started 20 years ago, primarily on West Texas music, from Lubbock, the hometown of Buddy Holly, so it all kind of goes hands in hand. Also teaching at OIT, American Media Studies, where we use film and music and things to look at various topic issues of the day. And I have a radio show on an NPR station down in Texas, and I'm really interested in filmmaking and things like that. But right now, I'm setting up my audio studio to start recording and writing music again. So,
Fantastic. And it should be noted that there is such a symbiotic relationship between music and film.
oh yeah,
More so from the film side. Um, I found when I had a super, you want to talk about a super fun job, from Curtis's perspective of he gets paid to collect music and to listen to music all day. I was a music supervisor for a stretch down in LA, which meant that basically my job was to listen to music all day and tell people what I thought was cool, because I was picking up music for film trailers and commercials and film projects and TV shows and web projects, and trying to match whatever emotion that the filmmakers were trying to bring out through audio form. Because any filmmaker who has spent any time working on projects knows it's the audio that sets the emotional tone in a film project. It's not the visuals. The visuals can accent the emotion, but it's the audio that sets the emotional tone. And so when you're using music to that effect, whether you're trying to make people feel happy in a scene or sad or whatever, you're consciously thinking from the filmmaker perspective of what type of music, and finding that right kind of piece of music, whether it's from libraries or having an original score, that's going to bring out whatever emotion that you're trying to bring out. And I'll tell you, as someone who's watched a lot of movies and TV shows in my day, there is nothing that can kill a project faster than having the wrong piece of music attached to a specific scene. Because then what happens is your audience starts feeling the clash between the visual and the sound, and like something seems off, and then they're thinking about that. They're not absorbing all of the aspects as one singular entity, which is the goal, is that the music and the visuals are all kind of running parallel to each other and pushing forward the narrative and the emotional tone that you want to set. So music, film is nothing without music. And from the earliest days of film, go back to the silent film era, they had organs and pianos in all of the theaters, and the studios would send out sheet music with their films to be performed, because it's such an important piece of the filmmaking process, is having music actively involved. So, Nick, you want to talk about the importance of film with some of your film project, or music with some of your film projects?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the greatest challenges of my first documentary project, Illegal. The music really, yeah, it played an essential role, going from a upbeat, inviting and welcoming, Latin American culture, and then the next scene we're talking about war and murder and death and rape. And so, for me, like as the editor, I really had, to take a lot of time to identify a good musical piece, but then in a way like transition from one piece of music to another. And my producer Laz and I, we spent a lot of time just listening to music. We had some major breakthroughs with certain non-copyrighted songs and others copyrighted. One specific moment, Kurt probably remembers this. In the movie, Laz, he's the protagonist. He's moving to Oregon, and Laz and I were just again editing away, and this epiphany, this idea came to us to have the Oregon song that is often played at Autzen Stadium. It talks about Oregon for all that it is, and so it's called Coming Home.
Yeah,
and
it's by my buddy Matt Carney, who I grew up with. I went to school with him, so. And that was the first. So from the judging standpoint, that was the first note on your film, is we need to find out if there's actually clearance for use of this in Nick's film.
Yeah, which speaking of which, Kurt, just a little update on Illegal. We are finalizing commercial distribution, and just got the music licenses for Coming Home, and then the other song that is in the first part of the movie. So really exciting. I don't have much more information about distribution yet, but definitely music has been, yeah, I mean, the whole project, like it really drives the story forward. So Illegal for me was a huge challenge in just finding the right mood and going from one entirely different feeling to another. Like, I mean, I'm sure we can all relate to that in any film project.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do have some announcements for tonight to go through, and we also have nominations for board positions. But I should give an update. I have not heard from our featured guest yet, Max. He's hoping that he can still join. However, for those who joined a little bit late, he had a transformer blow in his neighborhood, and the power is out for blocks. So our featured guest may not be able to join us tonight. It's totally beyond our control. But if he can join, he absolutely will. If not, then I'll see if he can be our March featured guest. But Max is a guy that I've known since he was in college. He actually attended University of Oregon, then moved to LA, did a couple internships, did all of that whole paying your dues thing, and turned into a big time film producer. And he's produced over 20 feature films now. His most famous projects are probably some of the Netflix films that he's done. He was the producer of the To All the Boys I've Loved Before films, which are the most popular Netflix original films that have been made to date. But he's worked on multiple feature films and whatnot. So if he is able to join us, we'll have a fun conversation with him. If not, then I'll go through some announcements. But first, I always want to open things up for any networking opportunities or an opportunity to share. If anyone's been working on a project or wants an opportunity to talk about a project that they have planned or is in stages, if they need help with anything that we can assist with or other members can, the floor is yours, Klamath Film members, if there's a project that you want to talk about. Sounds like
Cricket.
no one is working on anything.
The only thing I'm working on is trying to become a guitar player again. It's like I forgot how to play. That's
Sorry,
happened to
Gracie.
you.
I'm available to be swooped up by anybody that wants to take on a project.
Okay. Well, let me give a quick update because I know there's been a lot of interest about feature films coming to Klamath. I'm very glad to see that people still read the newspaper because that means I can still pay my bills. Because the article that I wrote back in December has gotten a lot of traction. I continue to hear from people saying, when are the films coming? When are the films coming? Well, what I can say is that we continue to be in talks with the film studios that are planning to come here. However, COVID, for obvious reasons, throws a whole bunch of wrenches into film productions right now. Nick can talk about that too. There's specific protocols that they need to follow on set. There's added precautionary safety measures they need to add, and that just adds a whole bunch of new headaches. And one of the big headaches right now is California travel restrictions. Now, those are starting to be lifted, but the California travel restrictions have really made it difficult for us to lock down specific dates for when these film projects are going to start. That's also led to some issues with funding for the films that were set in place, which is always a juggling act right up until the point that the film gets distributed. There's 1,000 different things that can go wrong, well, more than that in the course of a film project. But the plan is still that we are going to have probably 2 to 3 feature films shoot in Klamath County in 2021. What is uncertain is when. The plan for the first one originally was going to start shooting in January. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. We're now looking at probably March-ish for when that's going to shoot, but there's still some details that need to be worked out as far as finances and travel times. So what I will say is that for everyone who is a Klamath Film member, I will be doing email blasts. As soon as we know about times for auditions, for cast and crew needs, We will relay that information as soon as we know. And it's going to be an all hands on deck thing, which is great. We're going to need as many Klamath Film people involved as we can to be extras in the film, to work as crew on the film, because they're only bringing what's called a key crew, and Nick knows all about what a key crew is. That is just your core people, your primary actors that are going to be the main people, and the director, the producer, the cinematographer, and the sound guy. Like that's basically it. They're only going to be bringing the bare minimum essentials from LA, and everything else they're going to be renting out locally and hiring locally, which is great for Klamath Film because there's going to be plenty of opportunities for work. There's going to be opportunities to learn. Even if you've never been on a film set before, they will teach you some of the basics and find a place for you if you want to be a part of it. So yeah, Grace.
So if I want to be a part of anything, that first step I need to do is I need to get signed on with the members.
I mean, we would certainly hope that you want to be a member. Not necessarily you have to be, but if you want to have access to our film equipment to check out, if you want ticket discounts, if you want to be in on news about anything that's upcoming, I highly, highly recommend that you sign up for our mailing list and that you become a Klamath Film member. It's only $25 a year. And if you go to even a couple of our events, you get 50% off of all ticket prices. So go to a couple of our events, it basically pays for itself.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
So I apologize. I know everyone is eager to be a part of these films. I am too. And I was hoping we could talk to Max tonight about it, but hopefully we can talk to him in March if he can't join. That's where we stand. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of new information. We continue to have a dialogue. We hope to get the directors up here sometime in the next couple of weeks so that we can do some scout location scouting work. Because one of the tasks of Klamath Film is actually as the film liaison office for Klamath County. So when there's these films, they communicate with us about what their needs are, and then it's our job to provide them with the resources of finding some example places, locations where they could shoot, getting them connected with local catering and any other local businesses that might be involved in the film project, doing all those little things just to make sure that it comes to fruition. So I apologize that I don't have any new information, but there really isn't any new information. We're waiting on a couple of things to get secured, but when we know, we'll make sure that all of you know. Cool? Wayne, yeah, you look like you need to say something.
Yeah, that's filmmaking. January of last year, I was attached to 7 different projects, and then COVID hit. And I think I made 2. You just can't control everything. So hopefully these happen when you're hoping they happen.
We're taking every step that we can to make them happen, but there's more steps that are already involved in the complicated process of making a feature film because of COVID. So just please be patient, and just about everyone who's on this call, if you want a job, there'll be a job for you on the set or in some capacity of the film. We will need a lot of people involved. Are there any questions on that before I move on to the next thing? No? Okay. Then let me talk about KIF for a minute. So Klamath Independent Film Festival, 2021 is going to be our 9th film festival. Last year, we presented for the first time as a hybrid, where we did a virtual presentation and live stream things from the Ross Ragland Theater, as well as having an audience in the theater. That went so well, we plan to continue to do that going forward. So the festival will be September 17th through the 19th. We just opened up film submissions on Monday. So if you are a filmmaker or if you've been involved in a film project, it doesn't have to be professional. We try to be really diverse in our selections. It's not as like some film festivals will have a set theme, like there's just horror genres or festivals that only do comedy films. The only theme we have is that all of the films we show were made in Oregon. We are the Made in Oregon Film Festival. Other than that, we have things that people shot with their cell phone up to $1 million film projects or bigger. It really kind of takes all kinds. So the great example of that is Lori just on a whim decided to make a little film last year, and she got in to the film festival. So we look at it from a creative standpoint of, is your film entertaining? Does it tell a good story? If you shot it with a cell phone and it still tells an amazing story, terrific. One of our award winners last year was a 6-year-old girl in Ashland who made an amazing 1 minute long stop motion film. So a film can be a minute long, it can be 2 hours long. It can be any topic. It can be a music video, a documentary, an animation, narrative story, whatever. We just look at, is it an interesting film? Is it done well? And is it something that our audience would enjoy? And if so, then we go through a very lengthy judging process to pick the best out of all of our submissions, which is the next thing that I get to, because we need judges. We need a diverse lineup of preferably local people in the Klamath area or people in Oregon who would be willing to watch all of our films and rate them on a 1 to 10 scale. We will start judging at full pace as soon as the submissions close, which is on June 1st. So we get about a solid month to watch. Last year we had 86 films to watch, which is down from the previous year of about 100. And I think some of that had to do with COVID causing some productions to be shut down. But we will need volunteers to go through films, rate them, and then we have a whole second panel of judges that are our programmers who look at the scores, and we cut out the lowest scoring films, and then they watch a whittled down selection. And then we have a lengthy meeting that may be 5 or 6 hours where we talk in detail about every single film, go over all the merits of each film to pick which ones are going to be in the festival. Then we have a third panel of judges that are professionals in the film industry that look at all of the selected films, and they're the ones that determine our award winners at the end of the day. We give out almost $2,000 in cash prizes every year for films. Nick was one of our award winners last year. And it's a fun experience. Whether your film gets in or not, just by submitting a film, you are also given a complimentary pass to the film festival. So make a film and submit it, and if it doesn't get in, you still get to enjoy the film festival without having to buy a ticket. So no reason not to. We'll also need volunteers help as we get closer to the film festival in September. We'll need people to help for ushers and for taking tickets at the door, checking temperatures, stuff like that. I realize I'm a little tiny sliver on screen, but don't mind me. The important thing is the information that's on screen. So Klamath Independent Film Festival submissions are now open. We use a website called Film Freeway, which is the main site that all film festivals use to collect films. You can upload your film on there, give a little bit of detail, and then there is a $20 fee for submitting a film. However, we offer waivers to anyone who asks for one. So if you want to submit a film for free, you can. All you have to do is email me. Okay? Any questions about KIF before I move on to the next thing? No? Okay, cool. So we have a couple of events coming up, and we're really excited about that. In fact, Lindsay has helped with some of the planning of this. Thank you, Lindsay, for being a part of the committee that's working on this. We have spent months now working on something called the Oregon Film Trail. This is a program that was launched about 3 years ago by the Oregon Film Office, and they have been putting up historic markers all over the state at places where films were shot that recognize films of a historic or significant importance to the state of Oregon. So think of, The Goonies has one in Astoria, National Lampoon's Animal House in Eugene. There's a bunch of them in Portland. They just put up a couple not too long ago in Ashland for the films Coraline and the movie Wild. And Klamath Falls is going to be the next marker on the Oregon Film Trail, which we're super excited about. We are going to have a celebration on Saturday, February 27th, in recognition of the film Phoenix, Oregon. Phoenix, Oregon, even though it's named Phoenix, Oregon, it was shot in Klamath Falls in 2018. Every extra in the film was a Klamath Film member. So this was a project that was near and dear to our hearts. And last year, because of a total fluke in timing, the film wasn't released in theaters until March of 2020. It was released the week that all theaters in the country shut down nationally. And Phoenix, Oregon had been released with a simultaneous video on demand launch. Now, that's common right now because of COVID, but in March of last year, that was very uncommon. Phoenix, Oregon became the only film in the country that was eligible for domestic box office ratings, which meant that because of their VOD campaign, they were the #1 film in America for 1 week. Phoenix, Oregon was the only film that qualified for domestic box office. Technically, by default, it was the #1 film in America shot in Klamath Falls, Oregon. So we are having a historic marker placed downtown at the corner of 7th and Main out in front of the Daily Bagel, where some of the scenes were shot, to recognize the film Phoenix, Oregon. And we're going to have a whole Phoenix, Oregon day. So on Saturday, we're going to start at 1 o'clock outside the Daily Bagel with a live stream that will formally unveil our marker. And then everyone can then go up to the Ross Ragland, where we will have a limited seating screening of the film. And we will be joined virtually by some of the cast members. Some of the actors will be joining us after the film for a talk about the making of the film Phoenix, Oregon. Tickets for that are going to be $10. And we will have that live streaming on a virtual platform, just like what we did with the film festival. So you can either attend in person. We're figuring out whether we can allow 50 or 100 people in, but we're continuing to talk with the Ross Ragland for that. But there will be an audience inside the theater. And then you can also simply watch from the comfort of home. And we will live stream everything. So you'll be able to see the movie. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to interact with the actors and the director and the producers from the comfort of your couch if you want to. You don't have to come to the Ragland, but we are going to be one of the few shows in town for a while probably. So come on out and be social and socially distanced at the same time. Yeah, Grace.
How do you go about purchasing a ticket?
I am setting that up now. So that will be set up in the next couple of days. We'll make it public on our social media and on our website. So klamathfilm.org will have all the details. There'll be a link for it. We'll be taking advanced ticket reservations because it's obviously in flux based on how all the COVID restrictions will be for how many tickets we can sell. Virtually, that won't be an issue. What we're going to do is have it basically as a reservation where if you reserve a $10 pass, you'll automatically get a digital pass to watch everything virtually. And then as we get closer to the 27th, we'll figure how many people we can let in who have bought a virtual pass can also attend in person. Okay? We'll be mapping out details for it as we kind of get closer to it, but I'll have an announcement in a couple days while we finish off the last few details of that. But we're really excited because we can do a film screening, we can welcome an audience, we can greet people again and actually be somewhat social, even with masks and being socially distanced, and be a part of some actual entertainment taking place in Klamath instead of everything being shut down. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully everyone else is too.
The actors, producers, director are all really nice people.
Yeah, Gary and Ann Lundgren are the makers behind it. Super nice folks. I'm not sure if they're going to be traveling out or if they're going to be joining us virtually yet. We're still confirming that, but they will be involved. Some of the actors we're going to line up for a virtual call, but we'll have mics inside the theater so people can go up and ask a question and it'll all be projected onto the big screen. So think of it like a Zoom call that's on the movie screen that the actors will be a part of. So we're working on confirming some people, but there were some recognizable faces. For those who haven't seen the film, Jesse Borrego is in it, Diedrich Bader was in it, James LaGrosse played the lead. I'm blanking on the main female actor's name, and she'll probably never forgive me for that. But some very nice people and some wonderful actors, and a lot of actors where you may not know the name, but as soon as you see the face, you're like, oh, that guy who was in that thing. Like Diedrich Bader, for example, you might know him from the Drew Carey Show. You might remember him from the film Office Space. He was the neighbor from Office Space, and he's been in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and 100 different films. Really tall guy, dark hair with a deep voice, very funny. The other thing that we have upcoming is we decided that we were going to do some virtual movie screenings. Every month, we're going to take a film from last year's film festival, take a short film, and get together on like a Friday night, do a little video call just like this, very casual. Grab a beer or a drink or some food, kick back. We'll watch one of our short films from the 2020 Klamath Bennett Film Festival, and have that director join us for a talk afterwards. So the first one that we're going to do is a film called Karaoke People that Jen Tate made. It's a film about people who are obsessed with karaoke and going to bars for the social aspect of it, and how that's helped some people heal with some difficult situations. So it's a fun film. Jen will join us, and anyone who wants to join, that'll be totally free. It'll be just like this, a GoToMeeting call, and we'll show the film and talk about it, and we'll try to do that every month going forward, is using a different film from last year's film festival each month. So hope you can join us. That'll be on Friday night before Phoenix, Oregon. So Friday, February 26th at 7 p.m. We'll be doing that. And we'll
Awesome idea.
Oh, thanks, Joyce. Yeah, we thought since everyone's kind of stuck at home, not a lot of people are going out on a Friday night, but if you are, 7 o'clock, you're typically done with dinner, but you're not quite ready to go out and do whatever you're going to do. So for half an hour, join us for a video call. We'll watch a short film, talk about it, kick back, relax, have some fun.
Hey, Kurt,
So,
I would just like to add, I was over at the website looking and it's still showing 2020 events. Can we get that updated to 2021, especially with these Friday nights?
Yep.
Get those on the website somewhere? Okay, great.
Web updates are on my to-do list for the next couple of days. So we'll get to that soon. The next thing that we need to talk about is some people who are actually on the call are on this list. Our bylaws state that every year we're supposed to have a vote from our active membership to nominate current members to be on our board of directors for 1-year terms. Now, we were supposed to do that in October, and we're a little bit late on that. So we're doing that for final nominations tonight, and we will be accepting votes into March. And our new board members will be announced at our March meeting. The people who are listed here are those who have received nominations to date. If you look at my screen, Nick has been nominated, Wayne has been nominated, Lori has been nominated. These terms will run through October of this year, so it's not even going to be a full year, but they will be a part of our board of directors who will help with planning events like the film festival and being a part of all of the things we're trying to do behind the scenes to make film culture in the Klamath Basin better. So normally, when we're not in a COVID year, we would take final nominations tonight, and then we would hold an anonymous paper ballot vote at our March meeting. But I don't think we can do a paper ballot vote via GoToMeeting. So what I'm thinking of is that we do a vote by email. So I'll be sending out to our active members the names that are listed here of those who have been nominated, and people can vote for 2. And the 2 that get the most votes will be added to our board of directors through October of this year, unless anyone has other ideas for the best way to collect votes in a time when we're doing our meetings strictly virtually.
I'll take a quick look. Well, I've done some voting like this remotely through some university things when we, because of COVID and things like that. So let me take a quick look at that. I don't know if Doodle Poll will let you keep everything private, like you could have everybody's name and somebody could select. I don't know if Doodle Poll will let you do that or not, but there might be some options out there besides email, because you don't want to run the risk of somebody hitting reply all or something, or something slipping through an email, because I've seen that happen.
Well, I always BCC for all of our email blasts, and people can't reply all, or if they do, it only come back to me anyway. But I want to make sure that members have an opportunity to vote if for some reason they can't attend our meeting.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
this year, with continuing to have to do our meetings virtually, and here, let me go back to hi. Okay, I'm back. I'm not a tiny little thin line anymore. Um, so I want to give people the opportunity to have a vote, and if they can't attend in March, uh, having some sort of online voting poll or something would be great. But I think we should have a window available beyond just the March meeting on for that. And then for the three people who are on this call who have been nominated, Wayne, Nick, and Lori, do you want to remove your names from consideration before we move forward on collecting votes?
No, I threw my hat in the ring because I think I'd be potentially the only actor on the board.
Well,
And
Lindsay. But we would love we would love to have you. We have two positions that are going to come out of this member vote that will be on the board, and we would love your insight, Wayne. I mean, the more opinions that we have, the better, as far as all of the things we're trying to do. And it's not a huge demand. We have a once a month meeting on the third Tuesday of every month, and we do those via GoToMeeting. So some people just call in, and the meetings last about 1.5 to 2 hours long, and you'll be in on all of the planning going forward for things. Then we have some committees that if you want to join, fantastic. We'd love more help and insight on the specific committees, but you're not obligated to be on a committee.
I have more time now.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have input for whoever ends up being nominated. So, just so since you're here, Lori and Nick, since both of you have been nominated, do you have any issues with potentially being a board member if the votes come through to select you to the board?
No, I don't have any anything to add to that or exceptions.
Lori, would you, if you ended up getting enough votes to be one of our two selections, would you turn it down? If so, then we just take the next person with the most votes. But I want to offer if you want to have your name removed from consideration.
No, I'm fine to keep my name on consideration. I've been on the board. I was on the board in 2018, 2019 as the general member representative, and then I took 2020 off. But so I do. There'd maybe be a little less of a learning curve, but there's always a learning curve. But yeah, no, I'd be fine to be on the board again.
A lot has changed since you were a part of the board, Lori. So Curtis can attest to that. We're doing a lot more stuff. So. Well, this was going to be the point at which I introduced Max, and it's looking like Max's power is still out. So I don't think we're going to have a guest tonight, unfortunately. So I apologize for that, but it's a little bit out of our control. His entire neighborhood went black about half an hour before the meeting started. So, but Max, I will ask if he's available to be our March guest, and if so, we'll get him back, and eventually we'll be able to talk with him. And then every month we do a different person from a different side of the industry come in and talk. Last year, we had my buddy Pat, who is a screenwriter by trade. He was the person who wrote the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out last year that made something like $350 million. My buddy Phil was one of our guests, who was a British rock star turned film composer. So he now conducts orchestras and records out of his own home studio for TV shows and movies. He's worked on over 40 film projects, and we brought in an actor last year who's done stage and screen in Hollywood. We've done all sorts of different people who have different backgrounds to show different aspects of the film industry. Because one thing that's really important to know, and think about it, when you watch a movie and you get to the end credits, it takes like 10 minutes to get through the end credits for most films, right? and it's just one name after another. A feature film, there's thousands of jobs, or hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, depending on how big the film is, involved in making that film happen. And when you think of a film, normally people think of the director and the lead actor. And yeah, those may be the people that are going on like the late night talk shows, but everyone who is involved in that film is important to that film's success. This was a conversation I had with James Ivory last year, who grew up in Klamath and is an Academy Award-winning filmmaker. He reiterated everyone from the lead actor and the director and producer down to the caterer and the guy who's cleaning up the set afterwards. Everyone has to be dedicated and involved in order for that film to be successful. Some of the paychecks maybe be bigger, but when you're on a film set, there really are no small roles because everyone is actively engaged. It's a partnership, it's a collaboration, and everyone has to be doing their part. Those here who have been active on film sets, Wayne, Lindsay, and Nick, I'm sure you have an opinion on that, but the Academy Award winner says that everyone's role is important. So I would trust his insight on that. So yeah, I got a lot of I got head nodding, but no responses from people. So
anyone can blow it, you know. Anyone can blow a scene or make a scene.
Yeah. We and there's all sorts of jobs. I actually just recently I did a presentation for over 100 students in 7 states talking about jobs in the film industry. And most of the jobs that I talked about weren't the actor and the director because everyone knows that those exist. But when you started getting into cinematographer, best boy, grips, gaffers, unless you've been a part of it, you don't really know that those jobs exist, but you're just as important of a role on a film set to the success of the project. A film does not happen without grips. Like the grip is probably the single most important person on a set. They're the first one there in the morning, and they're usually the last one to leave. Because the grips and the gaffers, they're the ones who are setting up the lights. They're the ones who are running all the electrical. They're the ones who are running the the backdrops if it's an enclosed set, running the sound stage. They're the ones who are behind the scenes making all of the magic happen. And a film does not happen without those people actively involved. That's a really cool job to be involved with because you get to be involved with every aspect of the production basically when filming happens. We have a stunt driver on here, so maybe Lindsay, you could talk about the job of being a stunt driver. I'm sure that's a job that people may not think of, or just being a stunt man. And I realize that term is in the hashtag Me Too era. Things like saying best boy and stunt man are maybe not the most appropriate because yes, there can be female best boys on set. That was actually one of the questions that I got from one of the high schoolers was, can a girl be a best boy? I'm like, yeah, that's a term from the silent film era that is just carried on. Do you want to talk, since Max looks like he's going to be able to join us, maybe some of your film experiences as being a stunt person and stunt driver, what that's like being on set?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting the way that it happened because when I lived in Vegas, I worked as a valet parker. And so I was really, really comfortable with driving any type of car. Like it didn't matter what came through the gate. I had to know how to drive it and drive it well because some of the parking garages we had to go into were super small and you had to back into the space. So I was backing up super fast, trying to, get this car parked and then, running back down and grabbing the next one. So when I saw an ad for a stunt woman, I was like, yeah, I could do that. And so I applied and sent in my resume and everything. And then the lady called me and she said, so I want to ask you, have you ever worked with a Russian arm? And I said, oh yeah, on the last project I worked on, we had a Russian arm on there, and I'm quite familiar. And she goes, oh, okay, great. Okay, well, we're gonna hire you. This is a date we're gonna do, and this and this and this. I had to jump off the phone and Google what is a Russian arm, because I had no idea. come to find out, it is the main the camera car. It's that big arm that you see hanging off of it, and the camera's on the end of it, and it can like rotate 360 degrees and everything. And so I was like, oh, okay, so it's just the camera operating car. And all right. So I went on set, and we were filming at the Griffith Park, and it was really hard because so I was driving, it was a Mazda, and the camera car didn't have any brake lights on it because they didn't want the reflection on the hero car. And so when we're going up and down in, through the park and everything, it was so hard because I had to stay within an inch of this camera that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the problem is it was focused in on the emblem on the front of the car, and I couldn't see the camera. So it was beneath my hood, and I had to stay within an inch of it going up and down, and they didn't have brake lights. So I was white knuckling it, like just freaking out. My hands were sweaty. I was shaking, freaking out. And then my favorite part was when they said, all right, Lindsay, go ahead and let her rip. All the roads are closed. Just go as fast as you can and we'll keep up. What? I stepped on it, and it was so fun because I'm driving past all the streets, and they have the cops that were holding traffic for us. And I'm just flying by, giving them a thumbs up, and they're rooting me on. It was so amazing. And so we finally come back to where the set was, and I get out of the car, and the guy that was in the camera car, he's one of like 5 Russian arm operators in the country. And he comes over to me, and he looks at me, and he goes, so how long have you been driving? And I was like, oh, a while now, because I thought, it'd been about 8 hours since I started. And he looks at me, he looked at me and he goes, I can tell you're one of the best I've ever worked with. Good job. And I was like,
Yay.
that gave me the confidence to say, yes, I am a stunt woman and the stunt driver. And so from there, because, the producers and the directors and everybody that worked on it, it was weird to see a female stunt driver. And so it just snowballed from there. And I kept getting work after work after work. And so I never had to apply for another job again. It just kept coming to me. And I was working really consistently out there. So it was one of those things where you just have to say, yeah, I got this. Sure. Yeah, I can drive. Yeah, give me the keys. And it just went from there. And it was so rewarding and so much fun. And yeah, I got in some hairy situations, but it was great.
It looked like Grace had a question.
May I excuse myself? I have to go take care of my son.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally fine.
It was good to see you guys, and I will get signed up and become a member with you.
Terrific.
Alrighty.
Cool.
You guys all have a good night.
Thanks for being a part of it, Grace.
Bye.
I'm gonna have to exit as well, but thanks everyone. Kurt, it was nice to see you, and I'll look forward to next month.
Yeah, hopefully Max will be able to join us next month. Apologies, I was expecting to hear a bunch of Hollywood stories, but if we can squeeze a few out from just our membership, that's great too.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I'm jealous of you. That sounds like so much fun. When I was young, I wanted to be a drag car racer.
Oh, nice. It was really fun. I wouldn't have ever done it if I had seen that one breakdown for it, so it was really serendipitous how I fell into it.
That is so cool. Good for you.
Thanks, Joyce.
We did get a question in the chat room from Lori to Lindsay saying, what was the max speed that you were able to hit while filming?
During that particular one,
or maybe just in general, what was the most crazy, insane, totally reckless, should have probably died while filming this?
The one I was supposed to shoot a PSA for texting, and so I was actually going to be in a car accident for that one, but right like the week of the funding for it fell through, so that was probably going to be the craziest because it's like you're gonna get in an accident. It's just one of the things. But probably speed wise, it was I think I clocked up to 130-ish, and it was like on a dry lake bed. And so that was probably the most fun, just because it's so freeing. There's no roads or anything. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, because I did stunt work too. And so, the scariest part of stunts that I did was I doubled for Anna Claudia Telecon in the Virgin of Juarez, and one of the scenes was she was buried alive out in the desert. And we were in a legit desert. It was not on a soundstage. It was in a desert, and I was the one that got buried. And
Oh.
and so what they did was they put me in a sleeping bag so I could hold my hands up like this, so I'd have a little bit of air in there. And they would just pile more and more dirt on top. And there's like scorpions out there, there's fire ants, and it's like in the middle of the night, so it's dark. There's, whatever crawling around. And then I had so much dirt piled on me that you start feeling really claustrophobic. And then they're like, all right, ready, set, and oh wait, crap, hold on. Yeah. And then they start messing with the camera, and I'm like, oh my God, because I'm starting to recycle my air, and I'm starting to like go into a panic attack. And then they're like, hold on, Lindsay, are you doing okay? Okay, just another minute, just hold on, just another minute. And they're doing something with the camera. I had no idea. And I'm like, you gotta hurry, I'm running out of air. And then finally, as soon as they said action, and I was able to pull the sleeping bag down, and all the dirt fell all over me, and I climbed out so freaked out that they only did one take because it was so authentic. Because I was seriously freaking out scared. And then that's the only take they had to do, was because I should have gotten an Oscar for that. There was no acting involved.
The one take scenes are always the best because you have to get it on the one take. There's no option for take. Like if think of like the Dark Knight as a good example. When they blow up the hospital, there's no take two on blowing up an actual hospital building. Well, what I can share from my set experience is a little bit different, but Max could have talked about this as well tonight. Most people who end up working in the film industry, there's this whole misconception of, well, I just have to move to Hollywood and then I'll get recognized and then I'll become a star, and it doesn't work that way. The streets of Los Angeles are paved with the crushed dreams of the young and naive. And what ends up happening is people find any way they can, either through their job or just through persistence, to end up on set somehow. And you learn by doing. You learn by being involved in some ways. And usually you're doing the crap work to start. You're getting everyone coffee, or you're running around town doing errands for the director or dropping things off. Max started off largely as a driver. He was going all over LA, dropping off scripts to people and driving people to set. And now he's a film producer. We have a film producer who grew up here in Klamath Falls, Bergen Swanson, who was a guest of ours last summer. He grew up repairing bicycles in Klamath, and then decided to move to New York, started an internship, and now he's the executive producer of over 30 films. And he's worked with major people. One of his big films he worked on last year was with Tom Hanks. He's just wrapping up a film with Zack Snyder right now that's going to be on Netflix here soon. He worked on Wild, he worked on Precious, he worked on 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, tons of really great films that were nominated for Academy Awards. He got his start repairing bicycles on Altamont Drive over by Mazama High School. So there's all sorts of different ways you can get into it. How I got into it was I actually was working at record labels. My background is largely in music, like Curtis. And so I worked at Capitol Records, I worked at Interscope Records, Universal. And when I was at Universal, I got transferred from the radio promotion department to the music video department. And suddenly my role was largely as liaison for the bands, seeing like, okay, let's make sure that Mariah Carey is actually on set in time when everyone wants to start filming. Let's make sure that, Weezer actually shows up for the film shoot for the next music video. And just being an observant person that I was, I started to pick up certain things of just being on set, making sure that, okay, everyone showed up on time. Now I just sort of stand around in the background. I could either be really bored or I could start to learn some things. And I started learning some things and then picked up a camera of my own, started dabbling with projects and just kind of grew from there. So whether you want to work on feature films or you just want to make videos in your backyard or things to put up on Facebook, there's opportunities for you to learn. And it's really an industry that you learn by doing, just like Lindsay. And I'm sure Wayne can attest to that as well. Lori had a film in our film festival just because she was bored and wanted to do a jigsaw puzzle. So
And I might be working on a second one.
You have until June 1st to submit it.
Yeah,
Then,
I found a jigsaw puzzle that was even harder. So you had
great.
mentioned about, I know. I'm gonna get puzzle genre, a niche film thing. No, I don't know if I'll submit it to KIF, but at least to commemorate it, I thought I would make a short film. But this time, instead of doing the stop motion with all the pictures and potential squats, I decided to do a time lapse. And so I shot that, and then with some pre-editing was able to reverse the footage because I made the puzzle and then I did the time lapse when I was taking the pieces away. But it looks actually really cool flipping the video because I was sort of tossing the pieces to the side, and so when you reverse that, it looks like the puzzle piece is just like zooming into my hand, and then I'm putting it into place. But anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, to agree with you, Kurt, I've read many articles about how you have to have training in this. I took a 1-week class that I think was 3 days for 2 hours in acting for stage, acting scene and dancing for stage when I first got started. And then I just started going, and 39 productions later, I've learned so much, just doing. And that's what I would recommend anybody do. Just do it. You'll learn along the way. You'll learn from your mistakes, you'll get better, and go have fun.
Yeah. Joyce, I'd like to make a recommendation to you. Since you said that photography is a big passion of yours, you may want to consider doing some sort of photo montage as a film, either set to music or maybe with some narration over the top explaining kind of your thoughts on it or the direction. And whether you want to submit it to the film festival or not is up to you, but that may be a bridge for you to go from your photography into a film side of using still images that are then creatively put together. And if you need some help with that, we have people that could show you some tidbits and some pointers and how to get started. And that may be a whole new avenue of creativity for you, is taking all of your still photography and setting it in motion.
That's something I have actually tried, Kurt, and I've done maybe 5 or 6 small videos with music background. The pictures change according to the beat of the music and all, and I really enjoyed it. They're very short, however, but I could certainly, add to that. And, it's really fun to play them back, even for myself. But I have a few on YouTube, on my YouTube page. But yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's just a thought. And again, you don't have to submit a film to the film festival if you don't want to. But if you, since you've come to a couple of meetings and since you signed up to be a member, you obviously have an interest in film and
Yes, I do.
being a photographer, there's tons of films that are made that are actually just still, and film by its very nature is just photography. A piece
Right.
of film is just 24 photos set up in order. 1 second of film is 24 photos. So film and photography are really the same thing.
Yeah,
You're
you're right.
you're
And
you're still playing with shadow. You're still lighting things.
exactly.
You're manipulating light. You have a subject matter that you're trying to tell, whether it's one singular photo or whether a series of photos. So there's so many similarities there that there may be opportunities for you to use your current passion and branch it out into more opportunities.
That's a good idea. I'll give that some deep thought.
Good. We will be taking film submissions until June 1st. So there's a good four months to go before we will be closing submissions. So, well, I'm sad that Max couldn't join us, but he's probably sitting in the dark right now by a candle or something. Probably mad that he couldn't watch the Blazer game. But if there's anything else that anyone else wants to talk about, just a reminder, we'll be doing a free film screening here, and I'll send out the link for it once I get it set up on Friday, February 26th. And we'll be doing an event for Phoenix, Oregon on Saturday, February 27th at the Ross Ragland, as well as outside of the Daily Bagel. Mary Jane, was there something that you wanted to say?
No, not really. I unmuted myself when you were talking about photography and putting it together as film because I like photography too. And yeah, there was a helpful comment to me also. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I know that Mary Jane participated in last year's film camp that we put on. And so she learned a bit about the structure of a film, but there's no reason why a film has to be video. You know, you can take still images and still tell a pretty profound story and drive emotion with stills. So
Right.
that may be an avenue that you want to dabble with. Try it
Yeah,
and just see what comes out.
that's very interesting. Thank you.
Is there anything?
Years ago, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. No, go ahead,
Couple
Joyce.
years ago, I wrote a children's book based on my artwork and some photos, and I never produced it, but now I'm thinking, well, that would be something that I could put into a video possibly.
Mhm.
Just
And
ideas. You guys are making my brain work.
yeah, that's good. Well, and keep in mind, Joyce and Mary Jane, both of you are active paying members. Oh, actually, Mary Jane, your membership just expired.
I know
FYI.
I have you on my list of pay
Okay.
film dues, so they will be coming soon.
Okay. Well, once your dues are paid, we have a huge collection of film equipment that you could check out. So
I've
if
actually
you
looked through your list.
Yeah, so if you need a editing computer, we have a Mac Mini that you can check out that has Final Cut Pro on there and other editing software that you can cut up a project if you don't have any software that can do that. We have cameras that you can check out, tripods, lights, all sorts of different types of lights. So if you want to try a project, whether you like the outcome or not, but you don't have the gear for it, as long as you're an active paying member, you can check things out for free.
Cool.
Thank you.
So keep that in mind. I don't have anything else for tonight. If there's anything else people wanna talk about or discuss, otherwise we can just sort of wrap things up. Give people a platform we haven't had a chance to talk much. Curtis, I know you've been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I'm just listening. I've got an idea for a film, but it all revolves around sound, and so I think I need to build the soundtrack and then put it because it's all going to be about noise. So
Okay.
and so I think I'm going to build the soundtrack first. Because like you said, it's all about the sound and the vibe, and then I've got the division in my mind of what's going to be on film. It's going to be pretty simple, but it's going to come down to lighting too. You know, getting the appropriate lighting and things like that. So, no, this has been a good meeting, and I'm glad to get to meet Lindsay finally. And the Nick was here, but I've met Nick, and good to see Wayne again and Mary Jane and everybody. So maybe one day we'll all be back in person again. I don't know.
Yeah. One thought that we had, because last year we tried a couple of times to hold meetings in person and still present this GoToMeeting aspect that people could join online or in person. And the problem is always Wi-Fi at those locations. One idea that actually Lindsay brought up the other day was the tap house that's over by the Oregon Tech campus. So I did reach out to the owner there, and they're interested in us possibly doing some films showings there, and maybe even we could have some meetings there because they do have the outdoor patio
Yay.
that have the heated lights. You can grab a beer. They always have a food cart there. So that might be a good option for us to try to have in-person meetings again some point this year. We used to have our meetings at Waffle Hut, and they've shut down their conference room, and I'm not going to blame any business that shuts down meeting spaces right now. But
Are they even still open now? Every time I
yes,
go by, they're closed. They're still open?
yeah, they have reduced hours. They're still doing breakfast and
Okay.
lunch.
Okay.
But the tap house is open, and they have enough space. They have a whole upstairs area with seating that is open. It's heated, so we could socially distance, set up a little TV and a camera, and people could still join via GoToMeeting or could meet in person. So I'm going to talk to them some more and see if maybe in the next month or two we could have an in-person meeting at the tap house. That way everyone can get a beer for our meetings.
Yay.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else tonight before we shut down that anyone wants to talk about, or any questions about some of the things that we went over tonight?
No, I think I'm done. It's been a good meeting, though. Thanks for the information. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I'm still jealous. That was another lifetime ago. I'm 74, so yeah, I was going to be a driver someday. And I ended up being an accountant for 30 years. Finally quit that to do my real passion, which was photography. So here I am. Now you know my story.
I'm glad you found it.
And
It's, it sounds like I missed quite a bit. My computer had some technical problems, so I was glad to be able to join in on the last bit. So
okay.
hopefully
Well,
next time I'll be able to join for it all.
well, as a quick refresh then, Mary Jane, in case you missed it, we do have a couple of upcoming events later this month that hopefully people can join us for. They'll be both virtual and in person. So on February 26th, Friday, February 26th, we're going to be doing a screening of one of our short films from last year's film festival on GoToMeeting at 7 o'clock. And then we'll have the director joining us for a fun little chat. It'll only be maybe about half an hour, 45 minutes. So that can be post dinner and before your evening plans for whatever you're going to do Friday night. And then Saturday, February 27th is going to be Phoenix, Oregon Day in the city of Klamath Falls. I talked to City Hall today. They're actually going to be declaring it formally Phoenix, Oregon Day in the city of Klamath Falls with a formal declaration of that. We're going to be putting up a historic marker downtown on Main Street that honors the film Phoenix, Oregon. We're going to be showing the film Phoenix, Oregon at the Ross Raglan. So if people haven't had a chance to see the film yet that was made in Klamath Falls, this will be your chance. And then we'll be doing a Q&A with some of the actors that were in the film. So you'll be able to interact with some of the, and there were some pretty famous actors that were involved in the film. Maybe not for name recognition, but when you see their face, like, oh, that guy. Yeah, I've seen them in like a bunch of different things. And so we'll be talking to some of the actors that were in it, the directors as well. And we'll just have a full day celebration of a film that was made in Klamath Falls that ended up being the #1 film in America.
Ah, sounds great.
So tickets for that are going to be $10, and tickets will be both in person and virtual. So if you buy a ticket, and with your Klamath Film membership, you get a 50% discount. So tickets will only be $5. So for your discounted ticket, you can either watch it from your couch at home and participate in the live streams, and you can watch the movie online, or you can come to the Raglan and watch it there with us.
Thank you. Nice
So
information.
yeah, so that'll be the 26th and the 27th of this month, and We'll meet again on the first Thursday of March, and I'll see if Max is available to join us then, as long as he doesn't have a power outage.
Sounds
Sound
good.
good?
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it as always. I hope this was worth your time, even if we didn't have our featured guest with us. And hopefully we'll see you on the 26th and the 27th for a short film and to celebrate Phoenix, Oregon.
Oh, great.
Great.
Thank you.
Good night,
Wonderful.
everybody. Nice to see
Good
you
night.
all.
Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Hey, Kurt, do you have a second?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.